This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. It's Thursday, January 13th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From BBC News, senior Tories urge Prime Minister to quit after party apology. Although some senior Tory officials have rallied around UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, others are encouraging him to quit after he offered an apology for attending a party in 2020 in the midst of significant lockdown measures that prevented many people from visiting sick and dying loved ones. This is only the most recent political scandal to dominate British headlines during Johnson's tenure as Prime Minister, and it's anyone's guess as to whether he'll survive this one the same way he has survived all the others. But this particular scandal is very personal for some people, as the lockdowns and other pandemic measures that have been implemented in the UK have resulted in a lot of heartbreak and resentment, even if they've also been arguably prudent in many ways. So while it's anything but certain, the sense that this seems to be a case of elites ignoring the rules they demand everyone else adhere to could make this scandal stick, though it's also hard to say whether that will simply mean decreased support for Johnson and his party, or if he will step down or be pushed out of office. From Axios, record campaign cash flows into races for U.S. state election officials. Both Republicans and Democrats are banging the donation drums for candidates running for office at the state level, in some cases leading to double the usual amount of cash flooding into these elections. New focus has been put on local U.S. politics in the wake of the 2020 election, when some Republican-aligned leaders attempted to dismiss voter tallies that didn't come out in favor of their candidate. Former President Trump has been throwing his vocal support behind local Republican candidates in order to unseat those who refused to manipulate voter tallies in his favor in 2020, and to put loyalists in place throughout the local and federal voting apparatus. Democrats, for their part, are keen to hold state-level positions and acquire new ones where possible, lest they lose the razor-thin sliver of Congress they currently control. And from Reuters, Germany must cut energy use by 20 to 25% to hit 2030 goals. Germany's climate minister has released a report indicating the country will need to cut its energy use by somewhere between 20% and 25% in the next 8 years if it wants to live up to its 2030 climate commitments. The new German coalition government has said it will reduce the country's fossil fuel usage dramatically, and it will attempt to do so in a way that doesn't overburden citizens. But they've also said this will be quite the task, because while they've been able to cut their emissions by about 15 million tons a year for the past decade, they'll need to reduce those emissions by about 40 million tons a year between 2022 and 2030. In order to achieve those reductions, they'll be using natural gas to fill in the gaps that wind and solar currently cannot, but they'll swap in green hydrogen to replace that natural gas usage as soon as the infrastructure for it is in place. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.